Hey, welcome to the Crispi podcast. Today we have Clint Adams with us. I've known and hunted with Clint for probably way too long, if you ask my wife.
Oh.
We've been around together for quite a while, and we're excited to have him here to talk a little bit about a boot that we had him test out for us this year. It's the Briksdal PRO SF, which will be new for our 2023 launch. This SF is, of course, a stiff flex, so it's 5 on our scale from 1 to 5 as far as stiffness. And we really built this boot and designed this boot for hunters like Clint that get out to Alaska or British Columbia more than once in their lifetime, and get up in that high country, high mountain range hunting. So we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about this Briksdal PRO SF with Clint. But Clint, why don't you give us a little bit of an idea about your experience? Like, how many days in the field are you putting on
Sure.
a year? What hunts did you do last fall? Give us an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So got pretty big into guided, outfitted, intense, adventurous hunts in the last 2 or 3 years. So 2 years ago, I went to Alaska on a moose, caribou, and grizzly bear hunt. Ended up getting a moose and a caribou and a black bear within 3 days. So I caught the bug for that Alaska, Canada type hunting. And so then this last year I went on a doll sheep hunt, which ended up being 13 days and a really fun and intense hunt. And then a goat hunt in Sitka as well. And that's where I was able to run these boots there. So grew up in the hunting industry, grew up on a ranch in Colorado guiding. So as a young boy guiding elk and stuff, but took a break to focus on my career and work. But the last 3 or 4 years, really probably too many days in the field, honestly. Probably 40, 50 days a year I'm hunting, doing some kind of hunt, whether it's Texas after Aoudad, in the summer, kind of that kind of thing. And then you got the fall hunts here in the western states, and then the spring hunts for bear. And maybe we'll go back to Alaska, the peninsula, and do a coastal brown bear hunt here soon. So
Find the one that's got a big hole in the back of his head from your axe.
Yeah. We got to go after that guy again.
Yeah, that's another story for another day.
For sure.
But give us an idea about the terrain that you normally hunt, and then specifically, what is the terrain like that you took this Briksdal PRO SF on?
Yeah, so typically in Utah and Colorado, so it's steep terrain. I've hunted cougars behind dogs and bear recently. And so it's pretty gnarly, steep terrain, wet. But where we used this was terrain like I'd never hunted before. And I don't think like there's many places that you're going to find terrain like that, honestly. Yeah. But it was Baranof Island, so on the southeast coast of Alaska. Took this boot on. Honestly, didn't break it in much. I took it on one muzzleloader hunt for mule deer up on the Wasatches, and so got maybe 8 miles on it is all, and then took it to Baranof, and I was just so impressed with the lack of break-in required on this boot. For how stiff it is. The sole is extremely stiff, which is so important on those side hills because you're side hilling so much, underweight with a heavy backpack on. But then the support on this boot as well, and being 10 inches was super important for me. And
let's stop really quick so people understand a little bit more about Clint. Tell everybody, because I think size matters in this situation. People need to understand. I'm a smaller guy. I'm 5'10". I tell everybody 5'10", and 160 pounds, and.
Yeah, I'm 6'6", 285 pounds.
Yeah, and when we were running around on Baranof and with our packs, you were
50, 60-pound packs. So, I'm 330, 340 pounds loaded up on this boot.
So when you're talking about the support, that is a big, I think it's a big point because
with bad ankles. Like I have really bad ankles from playing college basketball.
Yeah.
And so that is extremely important for me when I'm looking at a boot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, so we get to Sitka, and we run up and give the people a little bit of an idea. I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier about, it's not like any other place. So what was that terrain like there when we got off the boat and we started hiking?
Yeah, so you're basically in a rainforest with steep, rocky mountains, but the first 1,400, 1,800 feet of elevation gain, you're basically in a swamp. So you're in water up to mid-ankle in these boots. So then you're climbing up, tons of downfall, deadfall, trees going up, over, under, super muddy, super slick. You're using ice axe to climb up and pull yourself up.
Yeah, when we walked out to the boat to head over, we all had trekking poles, and they looked at us and like, no, just leave those in the boat.
You'll break those the first couple hundred yards.
Yeah, and they handed us ice axes.
Like big 4-foot ice axes where you're throwing it in, pulling yourself up.
So when you're talking up, it's like almost, in some cases, it was vertical.
And there was some instances where we couldn't get up, and so we had to, some of the guys we were with said, let's go pick a different route. Let's drop our backpack so it's lighter. Let's go find a better route up because we can't even go up this. It's so steep and ledged out. So then you cut across, and then after a full day of that, we only did about a mile and a half, but with the vertical feet, it took us all day. And then from there, then you're getting up into the rocky stuff. So now you're kind of out of the wet terrain, and now you're bouncing on sharp rocks, slick rocks, as you're getting up to where the mountain goats live.
Yeah. Now, you said something interesting. You just said slick rocks. Tell me a little bit about your experience with this VIBRAM outsole.
I loved it. I was super impressed. So, like, seeing these, being a big guy, I was slamming my toes in quite a bit, and I loved how it held my foot in place, and I wasn't, I typically wear a 12, and these are 11 and a halves, and I ran some insoles in them, and just being able to put my feet, I never had them slip. I felt very planted and stable, even with that much weight on my back, which I really appreciated, and then the grip going from rock to rock. There was times where you're kind of jumping and doing that kind of hiking, and I was just extremely impressed. One, with the stiffness. I love a stiff boot, so 5 flex is perfect for me. Even if I'm hunting in flatter terrain, I prefer a stiffer sole. But yeah, the toe all the way through to side hill and preventing the boot from flexing side to side, I was really impressed with this boot.
Nice. And you mentioned, when we were in those muskogs and how wet it was. The water was up above your ankles in some cases. But you said that your feet didn't get wet.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I was a fan of plastic boots going to Alaska. I being from the lower 48 and specifically in Utah, everybody looks at plastic boots like the Scarpas or something like that, and they're just like, why would you ever? That's a ski boot.
Right.
And so I wore plastics on my sheep hunt, and I was a fan to some degree because as good as they are when you're going down shell and stuff, and they have 0 flex side to side, the waterproof of that, the waterproofness, I guess, is terrible.
Right.
Like that tongue, it's coming through, it's getting in the booty.
Yeah.
And so these on a rainforest type hunt with a pair of gaiters on, I couldn't believe how dry the insides of the boot was, my socks. It was incredible. I didn't apply any rain repellent or any wax or anything to these boots, just straight out of the box, and they handled that terrain incredibly well. Just so dry. Again, gaiters up to my wearing high gaiters, and going through all the brush. Pair of rain pants on. I got no leakage coming down into the top of the boot either. So that set up in extreme. They get over 200 and something inches of rain there a year. This was just such a great boot for that kind of terrain where it's steep, technical, rugged, and wet.
Yeah. So if you were to be talking to somebody, let's say at Western Hunt or the Sheep Show, where would you tell them that, this is a great boot for this? I mean, we've talked about Baranoff, right? So in the rainforest, but if you would have had this boot for your for the sheep hunts and stuff, what do you think about that? Where would you say this boot shines, or is it all around for some people? I imagine it'd be a good boot everywhere.
I think this is a great do-it-all boot, especially if you're a bigger guy, 210 pounds plus. I prefer, the taller boots. I was kind of an 8-inch, 6-inch, height guy for a long time.
Yeah, because before, I know you have some other Crispis. So you have the Nevada.
Ran the Nevada for a while, and then the Wyoming.
Okay. So those are
lower,
boots.
like if I'm going to go antelope hunting or something like that. But, if I'm going to go chase elk, where I have the potential of putting a lot of weight on my back for a pack out, I want a stiff high boot.
We can talk about your elk hunt later too. Your last fall was an eventful fall for Clint.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I would definitely say this is. I think sometimes people get scared of stiff soles or turned off, or like, oh, is it gonna blister or anything like that? My heel was so locked into this boot that the break-in period was non-existent for me. I didn't get any, and I was extremely worried about that. I took 2 pair of boots to Sitka.
Yeah.
Because I was worried if I get blisters, I'm like, that ruins your hunt, so I'm going to switch out. But I didn't. They were so comfortable, and I was even telling you on that hunt, I'm like, this is incredible for a new boot out of the box, how much break-in it didn't need. It was just comfortable. I didn't get heel slip. I mean, you go 1,500 vertical feet in a mile, you're on your toes, and so you're going to get a ton of heel slip or get blisters right there if it's going to happen, and it didn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was a little anxious about it because I knew we only went on that one muzzleloader hunt, and I knew you didn't have a lot of time in the boot, so I was cautiously optimistic that they would perform very well, and I was super stoked to hear how well that they did turn out for you. So, is there any last bit of information from your experience in this boot that you would want to let somebody know? Again, like if I'm out at a sheep show looking for a boot.
Yeah, I took this kind of from your earlier question. I went on a hunt to Sonora, Mexico for a desert sheep.
Yep.
This boot would have been perfect and ideal. Again, that was about a 5-6 mile hunt. Not crazy, but sharp rocks, cactus, sharp rocks, and then packing out a sheep. I think this is perfect for that type of terrain as well. So any guys that go down there to chase coos deer or mule deer, I think this is a great boot as well. And this is a boot I will run for elk hunts in Utah, going out to the plains of eastern Colorado to chase mule deer. So I'm not going up crazy stuff, but this boot is so comfortable too on the flat grounds that this is a great do-it-all boot.
That's awesome.
I have way too many pairs of boots. I think you've seen
17 or 18.
Yeah, 17 or 18. I've tried them all, honestly.
Yeah.
And this is right up there in my top 1 or 2 favorite boots I've ever done a hunt in.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Clint, I appreciate your time coming in today. And like I said, we'll have to get back on and talk about the bear and the pickaxe.
Yeah.
That was quite an eventful goat hunt.
Yeah, we got charged by a brown bear on this goat hunt. And so we'll have to that's an hour too long podcast.
Yeah, that's a long one. But anyway, I'm grateful that you could spend some time with us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So any of you guys that are out looking for a great all-around boot that might be stiffer, the Briksdal PRO SF coming out in this spring, and we look forward to you jumping into this boot and give it a good run. So thanks for watching.